Hello, everybody, and welcome to a cup of self-empowerment to trust, heal, and be thyself. I'm extremely excited to welcome a very, very special guest in our house today. And it's a very dear friend of mine, one of my mentors, Miss Emily Harrison. Welcome, Emily. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today for a cup of self-empowerment. How are you?
The doors just opened. I just felt all the energy all moving down my body as you were bringing this into the space. I'm really excited and honored to be here. It's, yep, and it just keeps pulsing and pulsing. Behind the scenes, what they don't know about, what we were talking about is the incredible expansion that is happening right now in the quantum field, and just the privilege and honor that we both have of being able to usher that energy in.
Mm-hmm.
And this that you are creating right now, Miss Kelly, is going to be phenomenal. So I feel really honored and excited to be here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for those who don't know Emily, I just want to give a little bit of history and a bit of who she is. And I'm sure you're going to be mighty impressed from what I'm going to read here. Emily Harrison is the founder and director of the Akashic Academy, a modern day mystery school dedicated to the knowledge that is empowering the planet to resource superconscious intelligence from within. After being featured on CBS, NBC, HBO, Lifetime, Netflix, Thrive, and at Harvard University, Emily is now creating quantum in-person experiences within the most profound grid points on the planet, so people can experience accelerated activation and embodiment of their soul mission. Emily was also named one of the top 5 businesswomen of 2021 by Entrepreneur magazine for her work to innovate quantum education and experiences that are life-changing for the ultimate spiritual seeker. That's quite an impressive bio, Miss Harrison.
my team killed it, didn't they?
Oh, they sure did.
That was. You know what I get really excited about, though, Kel? And thank you for that. But what everybody might not know and realize is that you were trained in the foundations of my lineage, and you have all of that in your lineage that gets to grow and expand as well.
Oh, thank you.
And I just, as people are reading that and they're like seeing that in me, please know I have transferred all of that energy to this woman who is sitting right
here. Party time. Thank you.
Yeah, it's that idea of stepping into your soul mission.
Yeah.
And then to be a part of this, which is going to be such a great part of your soul mission and sharing medicine with the planet.
Thank you. Yeah, for those who don't know, I obviously done my Akashic Records certification, alchemism with Emily, and it was phenomenal. So, you know, everyone who knows me knows how much I love the Akashic Records.
Yes.
Thank this lady here. So, Emily, let's get started. I would like to ask you, how did you start to trust thyself to start your journey? Because we all start somewhere.
I love that question. And it's, first of all, I want to tell everybody why it's so important to figure out your trust issues and getting, and what the opportunity to trust yourself looks like.
Yeah.
Right? Trust issues are so important because to grow and expand in this work, we've got to trust ourselves. We've got to be able to trust those who come into our field to lead us and to guide us along the way. We've got to become malleable. We've got to become coachable, right? And if we've had experiences in our life where we've made maybe big, bold decisions and the outcome wasn't exactly what we wanted, maybe that's in a relationship or in a job choice, what happens is we can begin to not trust ourselves. And those decisions we can even trace back usually farther into our childhood. There was some place where we didn't feel safe and we didn't feel comfortable, right? And so this idea of trusting ourselves became an issue. And most people have trust issues.
Oh,
right?
yes.
So for me, I've actually found that I would say I think we're all born with psychic skills to a certain degree. I don't remember being somebody who had my skills totally turned on. I had some experiences as a kid, but it wasn't like, oh, I see dead people. But you know what I did have, Kelly? And I'm realizing right now in this moment, and it's cool, it's a superpower, I think. I did have a pretty large measure of trust. I've always been willing to go all in on myself. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the journey has been flawless and easy, especially when it comes to our intuition and working in these higher realms of energy, because we have to use our imagination, and it's not a tangible thing, right?
Yeah.
It's an intangible thing. And of course, along the way, as I was getting excited about meditating and metaphysics and up leveling my consciousness, and then like seeing patterns and things that I could shift and change, I wanted to do this work. But it's like, everybody, I think at some point asks themselves this question, like, is it real? Is this even real?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
how do I
because we
know
think
it's
our
real?
imagination's like just playing with us, don't we?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what the Akashic Records told me about that? The answer to is it real?
Tell us. Share
It
that.
actually doesn't matter if it's real. It's the power of the story that changes you.
True. Yeah.
Because we as humans, we're creating our own experience. We're creating our own story. And this is really a cool way to learn to trust ourselves, is like, it's our job. Oh yeah, sip the tea. It's our job to really like invite that experience to learn to trust ourselves.
Yeah.
I also began to ask for experiences that would show me and reveal to me more of the quantum mysteries. Like, give me experiences in that, because I think that for me, that was an important part of trusting, was having an experience.
Yeah, I can agree with that totally.
Right. So
Yeah.
I began to invite the experience forward. Some of us have shut things off. We've got fear. So you might find that you need a little help or assistance in that area to really invite the experience, like to truly invite the experience forward. But Kelly, I got to the point where I truly invited it forward. Like I was so immersed in the mystery and the magic of the quantum field. Like, I wanted to be a firsthand part of it. And so I had an experience where I was working with a neighbor. It was just one of those random experiences where it flew out of my mouth. Hey, do you want to come for some energy work? Because he had some issues with his ankle. And long story short, like, I did not know what I was doing. I was winging it. But as I was winging it, I was super surprised he even said yes. I didn't have time to plan anything. I just had to wing it. I'm like, it was kind of like one of those, what's going on here? That's where you get to trust. You get to trust yourself to move into the experience. Like, okay, I guess I'm going to play here, right? And so as I'm playing and just waving a tuning fork around, his father, who had passed, came into my awareness. And we had a telepathic conversation that was later 100% completely confirmed by my friend. Wow. And I had never had the experience of being a medium or conducting the energy and the messages in that way. And it was like nothing I'd ever experienced.
Well, you asked for signs, so they gave you a pretty big sign, didn't they?
Yeah. And that was the experience that also allowed me to just shut down Hollywood. Like, I was so committed to that dream of being an actress. I never saw anything else for my life. I loved being in Hollywood. And then all of a sudden it changed, and I'm like, oh, this is actually the bigger story, magical story that humanity needs to know. And all of a sudden it was, my life then made sense. It was like the acting was a chapter of my life, but then I remember back to being a kid and like teaching my animals and wanting to teach people like how to do this. And the idea of, and you talked about when you read my badass bio, which again, good job team on that one. Talking about creating the in-person experiences for people. The inspiration behind that was, I want to create what feels like a Hollywood movie that is so magical, but in real life. So I began to see how all of these pieces of myself were aligning and inviting me into, and maybe we'll get to this question a little bit later, or maybe I'll answer it differently later when we talk about embodiment. But for me, like, trusting myself was a key component that I continue to surrender to all along the way, because there is such a big embodiment. Like, when we surrender to our biggest dreams and just say, okay, lead me, I will be a vessel of you.
Exactly. I mean, you're just a walking example of what can actually happen. You know, it's open to each and every one of us. You know, we're all equal in that respect. So everyone, please take this as an invitation to really start sitting with yourself and really start to trust yourself, because big things can really evolve from this. It could be that little top of cream on the icing of that cake, but it could just turn into the most delicious actual, I don't know what you want to call it, but just could be just huge.
Yes.
So you started trusting yourself, and how does that lead you into learning to actually heal yourself? Because obviously when you go on this trusting journey, things arise up on the way. So the things what come up in you, which you feel, okay, I need to go a bit deeper in this, which obviously means that we start healing as we start peeling back those onion layers. So how did you start to learn to heal thyself?
I went through like Heal Thyself boot camp, Cal. After that experience of working with my friends and me knowing, okay, this is real, this is where I want to spend my time and my energy, I found my way to an Akashic record training and dove deeply into the Akashic records. Now, the records contain all information backward and forward through time from a neutral perspective, from a God perspective, right? Which is a lot of power. So how do we get more access? Well, we have to learn to love ourselves. And what does that look like? It looks like healing our wounds, like you said.
Yeah.
So for me to get good at learning to read the records, which that was the goal of this deep dive, was like become a master at this space, or you know, we're always continuing to work in a state of mastery, but this was it was a high level deep dive. But the goal was to get me to that level in my quantum skills. So in order to do that, I had to go through the karmic cleansing process of healing myself. And I did that through my Akashic record training. And what it specifically looks like is, and this is the same for everybody, is finding our patterns. Finding the patterns of behavior where our limiting beliefs are that are creating whatever we don't want to create, our miscreations, adjusting those so that we can create on purpose. And anytime that we have taken on a belief system that is not serving us, we either limit ourselves in our possibility, we play small, or we'll create emotional dis-ease and continue to attract relationship over relationship over relationship that is just shitty and not working. Or, you know, we'll limit ourselves financially, or XYZ, or health things will manifest dis-ease in our health.
Yeah, that's also true.
So in order to command full access to our consciousness and our resources and our energy, we got to get those programs or those places where we're just like leaking energy and we're not working optimally. We got to look at that. So I had the opportunity to look at that really, really quickly through my own journey. And I found that really valuable. It's not for everyone, but what it offers, if one is willing to take that journey, is the ability to quantum leap. Right? Because it's like we're learning, well, however many years old you are on the planet, you're going to learn in about 15 weeks. You're going to catch up in the lessons of what you missed. I wouldn't say all of them, because as you know, like we continue to unravel and learn things about ourselves. But what we learn is the skills to identify the pattern and then course correct so that we can always stay in our potential and use our energy in this powerful flow state, right? And so in my course, Learn to Read the Akashic Records that you went through. And freaking, you were
I loved it. I loved it too much.
Because, you know, it was just, when I get expanded by my students that come into my field, I always know that there's huge mastery in this soul. And I definitely had that experience with you. It was so fun to not only usher you through that journey, but then you went into the deep dive, the Akashic Alchemy.
I
where
did.
you learned a lot of the advanced skills.
And
took that journey as well. So like I said, she's very powerful. I know. And it's not just me that's actually trained you. You also have other lineages that you've learned and brought in. You have just like a very high level of mastery in a lot of different areas.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. but I think you can attest to the questions that are asked within the space of the Akashic Records and those beginning modules that are clearing our karma, or it's like a self-purification, really allows us to understand and know ourselves from this universal God-loving perspective,
Definitely.
which doesn't get nearly as pissed off at us for falling over our patterns over and over as our human
Exactly,
does.
that unconditional love and that zero judgment, which we're not used to having in our field. We're so quick to judge ourselves. We're so quick to, not to give our love to everybody else, but not to think about loving ourselves and having that forgiveness for ourselves, And as you say, in the space, like those first few weeks of the Akashic Record training is phenomenal, the work, what you do there. It's just like, you think, okay, but it's deep. It really unlocks a lot of stuff within, and you actually learn to start working more of your intuition to follow your own guidance from your own record keepers, who are putting those little breadcrumbs out for you to follow, so you know exactly where you need to go deeper, where, okay, this pattern keeps coming up, I need to go and heal it here. And it actually kind of holds your hand in a very embracing kind of way. You feel very supported. Yeah.
They're gentle, but no BS at the same time.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So that's really cool. So ultimately, how did you actually start standing tall and being thyself unapologetically as the Emily Harrison that we see you as today?
Oh, I feel like I maybe just almost got there today and continue tomorrow, right? It's an interesting question. So I definitely feel like that is a work in progress.
Yeah, I believe it is for us all, definitely. But we get to that point where we've trusted ourselves. We know our trust is there. Okay, we're always going to go back to it and we're always healing. But then we get to that point when we actually say, okay, this is who I am. I am being myself and I stand tall in it. And that's what you're doing.
Oh, when I think I did it?
When?
I love this theory. Whew. And it was a really important moment because it's what released an ancestral pattern.
Okay.
That was actually holding me back in a lot of different ways that I hadn't fully seen all of the pieces of. And I needed to release that in order to fulfill the mission, to like fulfill the destiny, right?
Cool.
And it happened in my hometown, back where I was born, like literally probably a stone's throw, as they say, but literally there might have been one property in between the hospital I was born in and the funeral home where I gave my grandmother's eulogy. But the ancestral pattern had to do with rejection. And my maternal grandmother lost her mother due to complications of an abortion. And she was really, really young. So she grew up without a mother. Okay. And I remember my granny, she was overweight and she always talking down to herself, and she didn't drive. And so it seemed like when she would ask to go to the grocery store, like she always felt bad, like she was burdening us, right? And she definitely had that energy about
also
her.
That generation as well, who were less empowered,
Yeah. And then like once I understood that pattern, and it wasn't until I did my Akashic Record training that this pattern was revealed, and I was like, oh, well, that makes sense why my soul was drawn to Hollywood, so I could work that shit out every day, because there's daily rejection in that space. And it was interesting. I was hurt by it. I learned to shield it. I learned to embrace it. Like I played with like a 2-year-old, playing with all these different ways to work with that energy, acceptance of it. And it built enough of a tough skin that and that was part of the lesson that I got to learn in the rejection, which was pretty valuable, right? And so I felt like I had gotten to the point of learning that lesson, of being able to see it and to say, okay, well, what have I learned from this? How has it served me? Because to release anything, we have to know how it serves us.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I saw all the ways that it served me. But then what happens is that once we see something and we say, okay, I see how you've served me, but I don't want to choose that anymore. We make the choice in our mind. They're like, okay, and we shake hands with that. And we're like, okay. But then what happens is our higher self gives us an opportunity to embody it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people call this a test from God or the universe, but I feel very disempowered by that. I like to feel like, oh no, I actually perfectly aligned this for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Helps me recognize the choice from a more empowered.
Yeah, it's like you invited it in.
Right. And
Yeah.
so then we have an opportunity to embody this new aspect of ourselves. And so when I went back to the small town that I grew up in, which I haven't visited a whole, like since I made the transition from Hollywood actress
Mm-hmm.
to what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So I've been busy, and I hadn't necessarily been home a whole lot. At my grandmother's funeral, it wasn't just the eulogy, which I'm about to share, but it was also in the moments that we gathered around her before she passed, and my mom and her brother and sisters, and the lineage in between me and my grandmother. And we talked about these things, and there was just, healing and revelation and understanding. And I felt like there was an invitation to fully clear this and just like lay this generational energy to rest. And so how I felt like I got the opportunity to embody that was my aunt asked me to give the eulogy at my grandmother's funeral. And I sat down in the records and I'm just like, all right, what am I going to do? And of course, it presents in my mind like this beautiful monologue. It literally was like a performance. It wasn't standing up and giving a eulogy. It was acting out
Wow.
aspects of, like, you want to know how I started it? And I was scared shitless because I'm like, people don't start eulogies like this. And are you going to go too woo-woo? Because at the end, I had the opportunity to bring everyone's awareness, and religion rules in that small town. We're in the Bible Belt. So I wanted to be mindful and respectful of how I was inviting them to experience things that can be fringy in that space. But by the end, Kelly, I was able to call in her presence and allow everyone to feel it in that space.
Wow.
It was really cool. And like I said, felt risky and weird. But when I was a little girl, I used to lock myself in my granny's bathroom and pull the plug on her sink. And she had all of these lotions and weird silver hair rinses and just like all kinds of stuff. Right? And I would just dump them all in the sink. And so when I got up there to do the eulogy, I started with, "What are you doing in there, Em?" "Nothing, Gran." And I brought him like right into that space, and I brought.
I'm getting shivers. I'm getting goosebumps. Oh wow.
I brought, but the embodiment was I brought all aspects of who I was together in that moment, and just showed myself to my hometown and who I was.
Wow. So it's like a massive, like, even though they knew what you were doing, it was also like being yourself and getting yourself completely out of that closet, and just, and bringing that with your grand through as well. It's just, it's phenomenal. Wow.
It was an opportunity to bring the entertainment and the, and you know me to be pretty entertaining in my space. It's got to be fun. Right. But when you're doing that on a public stage, it looks a little bit different on how we create the fun.
It's a very sensitive area you were in. You're in a very sensitive container. There's a lot of grief-stricken people there.
The energy was raw and palpable, and it felt really good to create an experience for everybody where they felt the connection that we always have. And it's like death was evaporated for that moment for all of us. And it was really beautiful. And 6 months after that was when I was invited to speak at Harvard University.
Wow.
So I see that as like a big shifting point of where I was. And like I'm telling really fun, epic stories. Like, I was in Hollywood and I spoke at Harvard. These moments of embodiment, though, happen in the real life places at my granny's funeral. And so that's why I feel like it's this conversation is so good, because it will begin to illuminate in our minds when we get too caught in the human experience and we miss, oh, this is my opportunity. You'll get to see like, oh, this is what the opportunity looks like when it presents itself in real life.
Exactly. And it is in the most, sometimes most normal and unexpected situations, you know.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So what advice would you give our viewers about how can they step into mastering thyself?
Work with you.
Thank you. But what can they do as well for themselves? You know, what would you suggest? Someone who's maybe very new to this and, you know, yeah.
I just keep hearing work with you. Ask me the question again.
Okay, what advice would you like to offer our viewers on such a path of mastering thyself?
Well, I feel like it's this. Here's for me what made all of the difference. And when we're self-studied and we go alone, we can only go so far in this journey. And there will be times when we need to go inward and to go alone. But especially if you're starting, just know you can only do that for so long and you'll plateau. What makes for exponential growth, if you're ready to take a big step, is finding the right mentor or the right environment to be in, so that you can have that growth. Because none of us do it alone.
No, I can.
And I think
that's same. Yeah, definitely. You can go so far on your own, but then you do need to have that accountability, and also that understanding that you're not actually going bonkers. You know, that stuff that you are feeling and stuff and things that you can actually say, okay, this is actually real, you know, because our mind will start to play with us and we'll be like, oh, no, you know, and we'll start comparing. But to someone else to actually mirror back that brilliance, what you have within yourself, and for you to actually see that and know, okay, I can equally walk this way. I can equally help other people too. I mean, the people who are going to be watching with us today, they're obviously people who are here to actually help others empower themselves. But the first step is obviously to take that trust, to start empowering yourself, to start healing those wounds, healing those aspects of thyself which you know are holding you back. So you can stand up and be seen, and also help those other people who want to come to you to also be equally seen.
Yep. Yeah. I'm going to say, if there's somebody in your field right now or watching this that feels like they're just starting and just waking up, fine. That's where you feel like you are right now. But I don't think that you would be in this space if you weren't at a level of, your soul wasn't at a level of mastery where this is where you needed to be, because the lineage that the two of us hold, it's just too powerful. I mean, I know that mine is incredibly powerful, and I know that you've added other things that are equally as powerful to you. And it's, my experience has just been, people who come into my field are ready for sometimes more than they actually realize.
I think that's a very true word. And then sometimes we actually need to have that hand to say, it is okay. You know, it is safe. It's okay, you know.
Yeah, but I just want to like flip that story and just like look at yourself as like, Neo, you are the one.
Red pill, blue pill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you be able to support others on their journey to trust, heal, and be thyself, Emily? How could you help our viewers today?
Okay, this one is going to feel like it's going back to a very beginner level, but that's part of the brilliance of what I want to offer.
Okay.
Okay. At the basis of trusting ourselves is the clarity through which the messages are coming through. Okay. Yes. As we learn to communicate in the higher realms through our imagination more dynamically, it just becomes more and more clear. Yeah. And the clearer it is, the easier it is to see it and to take action on it. Okay. A lot of you guys who are watching this are going to feel already very advanced in your clairsenses. in your psychic senses, in your intuitive senses.
Mhm.
The clair senses are breaking it down into clairvoyance, clear inner seeing, clairaudience, clear inner hearing, clairsentience, clear inner feeling, and claircognizance, clear inner knowing.
Yeah.
Going back and working out these muscles can increase not only the speed, it's like increasing our bandwidth, right? It's like speed and clarity of which the messages come in drastically up levels. And exercises are good for you, whether you've never worked out before or whether you work out all the time, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I want to say. I want to invite everyone back into beginner's mind. Beginner's mind, or going back and approaching with an innocence, especially when you're a master, allows you to uncover nuance that will blow your mind. But if you go into something and say, oh, I already know this, that's actually your resistance coming up. And I find it's actually, ooh, this is cool. The guys are saying that's like the test when you're ready to enter into the next phase of mastery, because when you know, it's more about assimilating and bringing pieces together and playing and trusting that you have it all there already. And that's just a matter of looking at things differently. And if you're not willing to look at this lesson differently, oh, I already know what the clairs are, then you're not ready to move into that higher state of mastery where you just get to examine everything from this childlike state of awe, beginnersness. I make up a word.
You can.
I did.
You can add it to your lexicon, your dictionary.
Oh, that's good. Because that's where the magic of creation gets so easy.
Totally. And also, if like people, there's a lot of healers probably watching this as well, and you know, if you amp up your psychic skills, they're gonna unravel even deeper in it, regardless what healing modality you're working in. They're just for everything perfect, I feel.
Oh, I forgot to say, I have a free class that I'll share with everybody, a link where they can dive in and get that little workout.
Brilliant. Great. And it'd be great, you know, if
I should call it that instead. Sorry. Well, I should call it the psychic workout rather than whatever it's called right now. I don't know.
They could.
I like it.
So how can people get in contact with you if they want to work with you directly, Emily? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Oh, honestly, my favorite way is reach out on Facebook Messenger. That's my favorite way. I have a big presence on Facebook. I'm usually checking it, you know, at least every couple days. So if you're not on Facebook, then you can message me at emily@theakashicacademy.com, which is also our website. Go to the website, play around, theakashicacademy.com.
And you can find Emily also on Instagram as well, also under
just
Academy.
Track me down somewhere.
She's findable.
My phone number is just kidding.
Oh. Okay, she's paused. Oh, you paused. We lost you. You blew the fuse.
Ooh,
you blew the fuse.
That's how you know it's a good one.
Yeah. Well, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful for you spending some time with us today and having a cup of self-empowerment, a cup of tea with us, and just sharing your golden nuggets and wisdom. And it's such a delight to have you in my life, Emily, and of that I'm very, very grateful.
Ditto, my friend. It's an honor to be here and to watch you, not only in your empowerment, but empowering others and passing this magic along. It was so fun. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. So we look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. And until then, much love from us both. Bye-bye.